Beneath the quiet hills of Turkey lies an entire city carved from solid rock. This is Derinkuyu, an 18-story underground metropolis that once sheltered thousands. It is not a simple cave, but a masterpiece of prehistoric engineering. By the end of this exploration, you will see our ancient past not as primitive, but as an age of profound technological genius. We will uncover how these builders created sophisticated ventilation for fresh air deep underground and designed massive stone doors for impenetrable defense. How did they achieve such precision with only basic tools? What forgotten knowledge allowed them to plan entire cities in darkness? What does the existence of these places tell you about the true capabilities of the human spirit? Derinkuyu is far from alone. Across the globe, from the sun-baked mesas of the American Southwest to the very heart of China, the Earth is riddled with evidence of ancient subterranean life. In Mesa Verde, entire communities were constructed within immense natural alcoves, their multi-story structures clinging to sheer cliff faces. Thousands of miles away, beneath the modern streets of Beijing, lies a hidden city, a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers built to withstand the tests of time and conflict. This is not a collection of strange coincidences. It is a pattern, a global story written in stone and soil. The appearance of such complex underground habitats on different continents, built by cultures with no known contact, points to something profound. It suggests a shared, hard-won understanding of the living Earth. Our ancestors did not merely hide in caves. They learned to read the land, to identify stable rock layers, and to harness the constant temperature of the deep Earth. This was a universal engineering principle discovered independently across the world. How could so many cultures arrive at the same brilliant solution? The answer lies not in a single blueprint, but in a fundamental human ingenuity, a mastery of geotechnical principles we are only now fully appreciating. To understand this mastery, we must look closer at their methods, at the very stone they moved and the air they breathed. Descending into Derinkuyu is a journey through a city turned inside out. The first thing that strikes you is not the darkness but the sheer vertical scale. This was a metropolis built not out but down, plunging 18 stories into the resilient volcanic rock. Each level was a distinct neighborhood, a carefully planned floor in a subterranean skyscraper. Wide main corridors acted as bustling avenues, connecting to narrower side streets that led to individual homes, storerooms, and even specialized chambers. They did not just carve out rooms, they designed an entire urban ecosystem. Separate levels were dedicated to daily life, with communal kitchens and dining areas where the scent of shared meals would have filled the air. Deeper still, you find the infrastructure, the stables for precious livestock, the intricate wine presses for sustenance and trade, and places of quiet reflection. This separation was genius, a way to manage noise, smells, and activity across a population that could reach 20,000 souls. The entire city was a masterclass in vertical urbanism, planned with a foresight that feels utterly modern. How did they achieve such precision in total darkness, with only hammers, chisels, and fire? The rock itself holds the answer, showing clean, deliberate cuts that speak to a method far beyond random digging. This was a calculated removal of stone, a symphony of engineering conducted in the silent dark. Yet the deepest threat in a city of stone was not an enemy you could see. It was the silent, creeping danger of stale air. For thousands of people living and breathing in a sealed underground world, asphyxiation was a constant, invisible enemy. The builders of Derinkuyu faced this challenge with one of their most brilliant innovations, a sophisticated ventilation system that rivaled the complexity of the city itself. They engineered a network of vertical air shafts, some plunging more than 100 feet from the deepest chambers all the way to the surface above. These were not simple holes, they were meticulously placed to act as the city's lungs, using the natural principles of airflow we now call fluid dynamics. Cool, dense air would sink down certain shafts, while warmer, stale air from the inhabited chambers would rise and escape through others, creating a continuous, self-regulating cycle of fresh, breathable air. This was passive air conditioning on a monumental scale, a system that required no power yet operated flawlessly for centuries. It reveals a profound understanding of the living Earth, an ability to harness the planet's own rhythms for human survival. How did they calculate the precise placement and diameter of these shafts to serve an entire metropolis? This mastery over the very atmosphere leads to another, equally vital question. How did they ensure a sustainable supply of the one resource even more crucial than air? The need for water dictated the very layout of the city. Deep within Derinkuyu, engineers did not merely store water, they summoned it from the earth itself. They carved access shafts straight down through solid rock until they reached the life-giving aquifers flowing far below. These were not just simple holes in the ground, but sophisticated wells integrated directly into the city's architecture, ensuring that even during the longest siege, the lifeblood of the community remained secure. The true genius, however, lay not just in finding the water, but in making it safe. Evidence points to the use of primitive yet remarkably effective filtration systems. Imagine a stone basin carefully layered with coarse sand, fine gravel, and crushed charcoal. As water was drawn and passed through these natural filters, sediment and impurities were trapped, and the charcoal worked to absorb contaminants that could cause illness. This was prehistoric public health engineering at its finest, a deliberate process to protect thousands from waterborne sickness. This mastery over hydrology extended to every drop that entered the city. They learned to manage the natural seepage from the rock walls, carving intricate channels to divert this constant moisture into sealed cisterns lined with waterproof plaster. Nothing was wasted. Every trickle was captured, stored, and protected from evaporation in the cool, constant temperature of the underground. This proactive approach to resource sustainability reveals a mindset that was thinking generations ahead. They were not just building a refuge for a single season, they were creating a legacy capable of enduring for centuries. The successful management of this most vital resource created a stable foundation, a secure base from which the city could address its next great challenge. With fresh air circulating and a reliable water supply secured, the final piece of the survival puzzle was ensuring no one would go hungry. But a city cannot survive on air and water alone. The ultimate test of any long-term refuge is its ability to feed its people. The builders of Derinkuyu and places like it faced a monumental challenge: how to store enough food to outlast a siege that could last for months or even years. Their solution was not to stockpile, but to transform the very environment into a vast, natural preservation system. Deep within the earth, they carved out specialized chambers designed not for living, but for keeping food safe from decay. These rooms harnessed the deep Earth's constant, cool temperature, a natural refrigerator that required no energy to maintain. The temperature in these spaces rarely, if ever, fluctuated, creating the perfect conditions to slow the growth of bacteria and prevent spoilage. This was a brilliant application of basic thermodynamics, understood not through equations, but through generations of careful observation. They learned exactly which foods thrived in which conditions. Some chambers were kept exceptionally dry, ideal for storing grains, legumes, and dried meats, protecting them from the mold and rot that would quickly claim them on the surface. Other spaces were designed with specific humidity levels in mind, perfect for aging cheeses or fermenting goods, turning simple ingredients into stable, long-lasting staples. This was not random storage, it was a deliberate, sophisticated food science. They were managing humidity and temperature with the precision of a modern climate-controlled warehouse, but using only the immutable properties of the living rock. How many lifetimes of trial and error, of watching how food behaved in different parts of the underground, led to this empirical mastery? This ensured that a community under siege did not just have food, but had a diverse, reliable, and safe supply. It was this foresight, this deep understanding of the resources they had, that truly made these underground cities impregnable. They had mastered the art of waiting, of turning the earth itself into a shield and a pantry, allowing a population to endure any storm that raged above. With fresh air, clean water, and vast food stores secured, the city's final challenge was to become a fortress. Its greatest vulnerability was also its only entrance. The solution was a masterpiece of defensive engineering, the massive rolling stone door. These were not simple barriers, but monolithic discs of solid rock, each weighing several tons and perfectly balanced within a carved stone track. From the inside, a small team could easily roll this immense stone into place, sealing the main corridor with a block that was utterly immovable from the outside. Imagine the sound of that stone grinding into its socket, the final, definitive click that separated a bustling community from any threat above. The placement of these doors reveals a strategic military mind at work. They were positioned at critical choke points, often at the top of a steep, narrow staircase or just beyond a tight, twisting corridor. An invading force would be funneled into a single file, unable to use their numbers or large weapons, while defenders could hold the position from above. This was defense in depth, a layered security system carved directly into the landscape. How did they create such perfectly circular, balanced stones with only simple tools? The precision of these doors points to a knowledge of stonework that feels almost impossible for its time. The entire city was designed not just for living, but for enduring, a testament to an ingenuity that turned rock into both a home and an unbreachable shield. The rock they carved holds the secret to their methods. This was not granite, but a softer stone known as volcanic tuff, a material formed from compacted ash that is hard enough to be stable, yet soft enough to be worked with simple tools. A durable metal pick or a hardened chisel could certainly bite into its surface, but the true mystery is not the basic act of carving. It is the breathtaking scale and unwavering consistency of the work. To hollow out 18 stories, to create thousands of rooms with such clean, uniform walls, using only a hammer and chisel, would be a task of almost unimaginable duration and physical effort. The sheer volume of rock removed forces us to ask if we are missing a crucial piece of their technological puzzle. Were their tools more advanced than we have found? Or was their knowledge far deeper? One compelling theory suggests they understood the very chemistry of the stone they worked. Ancient accounts from other cultures speak of plant-based solutions or acidic compounds that could be applied to certain types of rock, effectively softening the surface and making it easier to quarry. Could the builders of Derinkuyu have used a similar technique, a forgotten alchemy that allowed them to carve through solid tuff as if it were stiff clay? This would point to a mastery of material science that we are only now beginning to credit to the ancient world. It transforms the image of the labor from a brutal, grueling ordeal into a calculated, almost surgical process. Yet this method of working the stone raises another, equally critical question. If you are softening rock or carving out such vast chambers, how do you ensure the entire city does not collapse in upon itself? The structural integrity of these spaces is a silent testament to their engineering genius. They understood the principles of load-bearing, carving arches, and leaving massive, unworked pillars of natural stone at regular intervals to support the incredible weight of the world above them. Every corridor, every room was shaped with an innate understanding of geology and physics. They were not just digging holes, they were architects of negative space, creating a lasting void within a solid mountain. This knowledge, whether it came from sophisticated tools or a profound, accumulated wisdom of the earth, allowed them to build a world meant to last for millennia. The silent threat hanging over every carved chamber was not a human enemy, but the immense, unyielding weight of the earth itself. A single miscalculation in the rock above would have meant instant and total collapse. Yet these cities did not just stand, they have endured for thousands of years, a testament to an intuitive mastery of structural physics. The builders were not merely excavators, they were architects of emptiness. As they carved out vast halls and long corridors, they deliberately left behind enormous, unworked pillars of the native stone at regular, calculated intervals. These pillars were not an afterthought, they were the foundational support columns of the entire subterranean world, bearing the colossal load of the mountain overhead. Then they shaped the ceilings. Instead of flat surfaces which concentrate stress at their weakest points, they meticulously carved graceful, arched vaults. The arch is nature's perfect shape for distributing weight, channeling the downward force of the rock outwards and downwards into the sturdy walls and those vital pillars. This simple, brilliant application of compressive strength meant that the entire structure worked together as a single, unified entity. The weight of the world was not a burden to be borne, but a force to be guided and managed. How did they learn to see these invisible lines of force, these load paths within the solid rock? This was engineering knowledge written in stone, passed down through generations of trial and observation. It was this absolute stability, this guarantee of safety from the very ground they stood on, that allowed something remarkable to flourish. With the fear of collapse eliminated, the community could focus on what truly makes a city, the intricate web of social life that turns a shelter into a civilization. A city of thousands cannot function on engineering alone. It requires a social blueprint, an invisible architecture of rules and roles just as complex as its physical structure. Deep within the darkness of Derinkuyu, every aspect of life was meticulously organized to prevent chaos from becoming the greatest threat of all. There were designated chambers for community leaders to gather and make decisions, spaces for spiritual practice that offered comfort and unity, and areas set aside for trade and commerce, where goods could be exchanged in an orderly fashion. Even the most basic yet vital function of waste management was systematically addressed with specially carved pits, ensuring sanitation and preventing the spread of illness in a sealed environment. This was not a random collection of people hiding in a hole. It was a highly structured society operating under a common understanding. The logistics of daily life demanded profound cooperation. How was food from the vast storage chambers distributed fairly among 20,000 people? How were disputes over living space or resources resolved without escalating into conflict? The answers point to a sophisticated level of social engineering, a collective agreement that every individual's survival was inextricably linked to the well-being of the whole. This remarkable cooperation was likely rooted in something deeper than mere practicality. It was almost certainly forged by a shared cultural and spiritual belief system, a common identity that gave everyone a unified purpose and a reason to uphold the rules that kept them all alive. The strength of their society, therefore, was not just in the stone around them, but in the unbreakable bonds between them. This intricate social machine, perfectly adapted to life beneath the earth, forces a profound question about the people who built it. What kind of culture gives rise to such a collective, long-term vision? The invisible architecture of their society was supported by a framework of shared belief, a spiritual dimension carved as deeply into the city as its physical corridors. This was not merely a shelter, it was a sacred landscape. In the profound darkness, the builders created a profound connection to the light of the heavens. Certain air shafts and narrow passages were not just for ventilation, they were precisely aligned with the sun, the moon, and significant stars. On specific days of the year, a beam of light would pierce the absolute blackness, traveling down a long tunnel to illuminate a single, carved symbol on a far wall. These were underground observatories, calendars of stone that marked the solstices and equinoxes, turning the passage of time into a visible, celestial event. This integration of astronomy and architecture reveals the true identity of the master builders. They were not merely engineers, they were philosophers and priests. Their understanding of the cosmos was as critical to their survival as their knowledge of hydrology or structural physics. They were weaving their spiritual beliefs into the very bedrock, creating a space where the earthly and the divine met in perpetual harmony. Why go to such lengths to bring the sky underground? For a community living in secrecy, these celestial alignments provided a vital link to the natural order, a way to maintain their cultural and religious rituals even when the surface world was forbidden. It offered a sense of cosmic permanence and hope, a reminder that the same orderly heavens still turned above their hidden world. This spiritual purpose transforms our understanding of these places. They were not just defensive strongholds, they were sanctuaries for the soul, designed to preserve an entire way of life, body and spirit, through times of great hardship. The sophistication of this worldview, where every stone held both a practical and a sacred meaning, forces a startling reconsideration of the civilization that conceived it. The debate over why these cities were built is as layered as the cities themselves. While defense is the most obvious answer, a single explanation cannot capture the full picture. Imagine the surface world gripped by a brutal summer, the air shimmering with heat, or locked in a winter so deep the soil turns to iron. Meanwhile, deep within the earth, the temperature remains a constant, gentle 55 degrees. This was not just a hiding place, it was a perfectly climate-controlled habitat, a refuge from the punishing extremes that could make surface life a constant struggle. The Earth itself became a natural insulator, providing a stable environment where communities could thrive regardless of the season above. But for some, the motivation may have been even more profound. The absolute secrecy of the underground offered a sanctuary for ideas, a spiritual tradition facing persecution, or a school of knowledge deemed dangerous by ruling powers, could have used these hidden halls to preserve their practices and teachings. The very isolation that made the city a fortress also made it a perfect library, a secluded temple where esoteric wisdom could be protected from the changing tides of the surface world. This suggests their purpose was not singular, but a complex tapestry woven from threads of survival, comfort, and spiritual necessity. The choice of location, therefore, was the first and most critical engineering decision. They needed the perfect stone, a material that was workable yet stable, and they had to find it. The choice of location was not a matter of chance, but of profound geological intuition. Before a single tool ever struck stone, these master builders had to read the landscape like an open book. Their first and most critical decision was selecting the perfect canvas, a rock formation that balanced two opposing needs. It had to be soft enough for their simple tools to carve efficiently, yet structurally sound enough to remain stable for centuries under the immense weight of the earth. They consistently chose rock types like volcanic tuff or certain limestones, materials that offered this perfect compromise. Volcanic tuff, formed from compacted ash, is famously workable. A hardened metal chisel can bite into it, yet once exposed to air, it often hardens further, gaining strength and durability. This was a living material that collaborated with the builders, transforming from a soft medium into a permanent, resilient home. This selection process demanded an intimate, generational knowledge of the local earth. The builders had to understand the hidden anatomy of the land. They avoided fault lines, those zones of inherent weakness where the ground could shift and shatter their entire world. They learned to identify unstable strata, layers of rock or soil that were prone to crumbling or sliding. Most critically, they had to sense the invisible water table, the underground level where the rock becomes saturated. Carving too deep could mean a sudden, catastrophic flood, turning a sanctuary into a tomb. How did they acquire this wisdom without modern drilling equipment or geological surveys? They likely learned from the land itself, observing natural springs, the behavior of water in dry seasons, and the types of vegetation that grew in certain areas, all clues to the hidden hydrological map below. They understood that a successful city needed a dry foundation. This geological wisdom was the silent, non-negotiable first step, the essential prerequisite that made every other engineering marvel possible. It was a deep collaboration with the planet, a partnership that began with listening to the whispers of the stone. The silence of the underground was not truly silent at all. Step into one of the large central halls carved deep within the rock, and you would have encountered a space that seemed to breathe with sound. A single spoken word could travel with remarkable clarity, reaching the farthest corners of the chamber without the speaker needing to raise their voice. This was no accident of the stone. Certain halls were meticulously shaped to function as natural amplifiers. Their curved ceilings and carefully angled walls would catch the vibrations of a human voice and guide them, projecting sound waves in a way that made communal announcements or spiritual teachings accessible to everyone present. In a city of thousands, this sonic design was a tool of social cohesion, ensuring that vital information and shared stories could bind the community together. Yet, just a short walk away, the acoustic principle was reversed. The smaller, interconnected living quarters show evidence of being intentionally designed to absorb and dampen sound. The use of textiles, the strategic placement of storage niches that broke up sound waves, and the specific angles of the walls all work to create pockets of auditory privacy. In a world where families lived in close proximity, this control over the sonic environment was as crucial as walls themselves. It allowed for private conversations, for the intimate sounds of family life to be contained, and for the constant background hum of a vast population to be managed. This intuitive mastery of acoustics reveals a layer of social engineering as sophisticated as their ventilation shafts. They understood that for a society to function in perpetual darkness, they needed to control not just the air and the water, but the very soundscape of their world. How did they learn to sculpt the rock to sing when they needed it to, and to whisper when they required peace? This subtle manipulation of their environment points to a culture that valued both the collective voice and the quiet dignity of the individual. The sheer volume of stone removed from a city like Derinkuyu is almost beyond comprehension. We are speaking of millions of cubic feet of solid rock, painstakingly excavated and carried out, handful by handful, to create a void large enough to house 20,000 people. This monumental effort forces a fundamental question about time. Was this a single, unified project driven by a powerful central authority, a race against an impending threat completed in a few dedicated generations? Or was it a slow, organic growth, a subterranean coral reef built layer by layer over the slow passage of centuries? The evidence carved into the walls themselves suggests both answers might be true. Certain sections show a remarkable consistency in style and technique, as if a master plan was being followed. Other areas appear more haphazard, with rooms branching off in seemingly random directions, hinting at later additions by families or small groups expanding their own living space as the community grew. If it was a single, massive project, the logistics are staggering. It would have required a labor force numbering in the thousands, all dedicated to a single, multi-generational goal. They needed not just diggers, but engineers to plan the ventilation and structural supports, architects to design the layout, and a complex system to feed and house the workers themselves. This points to a highly organized, hierarchical society capable of marshalling immense resources for a long-term vision. The alternative, a slow expansion over many centuries, is equally profound. It suggests a living tradition, a cultural knowledge so deeply ingrained that each new generation understood the precise angle to carve an arch, the exact diameter needed for an air shaft, and the sacred alignment for a celestial window. This specialized knowledge was not written in books, but passed down through apprenticeship and oral tradition, likely guarded closely by guilds of master builders. The continuity required for this is itself a marvel. It means that for hundreds of years, the collective memory of how to build this underground world remained intact, a silent promise from one generation to the next to continue the work. This transforms our understanding of their society from a people merely reacting to a crisis to a civilization with an unshakable long-term perspective. They were not just building for themselves but for their grandchildren's grandchildren, investing in a legacy of safety carved directly into the bones of the earth. The hands that carved this world from stone left no signature. We walk through their masterpiece, yet the masters themselves remain utterly anonymous, their identities lost to the silent rock. This absence forces a difficult question. Who were these builders, and what was the human cost of such a monumental achievement? The sheer scale of labor involved is staggering. To excavate millions of cubic feet of stone, to carve 18 levels with such flawless precision, suggests an immense and highly organized workforce. The most challenging possibility is that this labor was compelled. Could a system of forced labor have been the engine behind this creation? The sheer physical effort, combined with the project's vast timeline, makes this a haunting question that historians must consider. Yet, the evidence carved into the walls themselves seems to argue against a workforce of unwilling laborers. The work is too consistent, too masterful. There are no signs of haste or shoddy workmanship, no telltale marks of resentment. Instead, we see the clean, confident lines of artisans who took pride in their craft. This points toward another reality, one of highly skilled, specialized workers. Master architects would have planned the layout and the critical structural supports. Guilds of stonemasons, their knowledge passed from parent to child, would have executed the vision with an intimate understanding of the stone's properties. These were not mere diggers, they were engineers and artists. This suggests a society capable of supporting such a specialized class, a society with a complex economy that could feed, house, and compensate these experts for years, perhaps even generations. The logistics alone are a testament to a powerful administrative system. Someone had to manage the distribution of food and water for the workforce, coordinate the removal of countless tons of rubble, and oversee the intricate scheduling of different trades. This was not a chaotic scramble, it was a meticulously managed long-term operation. The vision that guided it, the ambition to carve an entire city from the earth, hints at a cultural memory, a tradition of building that may have been inspired by even older, now lost subterranean wonders. Were they fulfilling a prophecy or following a blueprint devised by ancestors from a forgotten age? The anonymity of the builders may be the ultimate clue, suggesting that they saw themselves not as individuals, but as servants of a collective dream far greater than any one person. The anonymity of the builders points toward a knowledge so foundational it feels inherited. Legends from across the ancient world speak of a lost age, a time when a sophisticated global civilization possessed arts and sciences later forgotten. These stories, from the sunken spires of Atlantis to the vast kingdoms described in Sanskrit epics, share a common thread, a great cataclysm that reset the course of human history. Some researchers propose a compelling alternative to the conventional timeline. They suggest the master builders of Derinkuyu were not starting with a blank slate. Instead, they might have been the grateful inheritors, applying and adapting fragments of a much older, advanced engineering knowledge that survived whatever upheaval erased its source. This is not to suggest alien intervention, but rather a human golden age, a precursor culture whose understanding of geology, hydraulics, and structural mechanics was profound. Imagine a small group of survivors, guardians of a lost library of stone and sky, traveling to a new land like Cappadocia. They would have recognized the perfect volcanic tuff not as a novel material, but as one they already knew how to shape. The principles of passive ventilation, the precise geometry of load-bearing arches, the celestial alignments, all of this could have been part of a preserved curriculum, a technological legacy passed down to ensure that humanity could, once again, find refuge within the earth. This idea transforms these underground cities from isolated marvels into potential monuments to a forgotten chapter in our collective story. If true, it means we are not looking at the peak of prehistoric engineering, but at its elegant and enduring echo. The true genius of prehistoric engineering is revealed not in a single style, but in its breathtaking diversity. While the pyramid builders were masters of assembly, erecting colossal structures stone by stone, the architects of the underground were virtuosos of subtraction. Their canvas was not an empty plain, but the living earth itself, one discipline focused on the Herculean task of moving and lifting, of assembling a mountain from the ground up. The other specialized in the careful, deliberate removal of material, carving a city from the inside out without ever compromising the mountain's strength. This is a fundamental distinction in engineering philosophy. To build a pyramid, you must command immense labor and perfect the logistics of transport, creating order from chaos on an open site. But to build a Derinkuyu, you must possess an intimate, almost conversational knowledge of geology. You are not placing rocks, you are reshaping a continuous, monolithic piece of the planet. Your challenge is not gravity alone, but the invisible forces of compression, shear, and hydrostatic pressure within the rock mass. The pyramid stands as a monument against the sky, a testament to human will over the landscape. The underground city exists in harmony with the earth, a testament to human wisdom working within it. Both achievements are staggering, yet they demanded entirely different kinds of brilliance. One required the strength to place millions of stones, the other required the foresight to leave the right pillars in place. This specialization speaks to a prehistoric world rich with distinct schools of technological thought, each perfectly adapted to its environment and purpose. How does this hidden, subtractive mastery challenge our very definition of architectural progress? Every engineering marvel we see today stands upon a foundation of forgotten failures. The flawless arches and perfectly placed air shafts of Derinkuyu were not conceived in a single, brilliant flash of inspiration. They were the hard-won result of generations of practical learning, a slow and often difficult accumulation of knowledge. We can be certain that early attempts at such ambitious excavations did not always succeed. A poorly placed pillar, a miscalculation in the rock's stability, or a misjudgment of the water table could have led to a partial collapse, a flooded chamber, or worse. These were the painful, costly lessons that shaped their future successes. Each failure taught them something new about the hidden anatomy of the stone, about the precise angle needed for an arch to bear weight, or about the subtle signs that indicated an unstable layer of rock. This was a process of learning by doing on a monumental scale. The first underground shelters were likely small and simple, but with each generation the techniques were refined. A successful method for carving a stable ceiling in one location became a standard practice. An effective design for a ventilation shaft was remembered and replicated. This empirical knowledge, tested and proven in the most unforgiving laboratory of all, was then carefully codified into an oral tradition, a set of unwritten rules passed from master builders to their apprentices. The breathtaking precision of a city like Derinkuyu, therefore, represents the final, polished chapter in a very long story of trial and error. It is the culmination of 1,000 smaller lessons learned, a testament to the human capacity to persevere, adapt, and transform early setbacks into enduring mastery. The silence of the finished city is a testament to another, more subtle mystery. With millions of tons of rock carefully removed, where did all the rubble simply disappear to? The sheer volume is staggering, enough to build several pyramids on the surface, yet the landscape around Derinkuyu shows no obvious colossal spoil heaps. This was not a messy operation. It was a project defined by an almost obsessive level of site management, a clean and comprehensive plan that has left archaeologists puzzling for decades. One compelling theory is that the excavated material was never truly wasted. The very same volcanic tuff that was carved from the depths is an excellent building material. It is entirely possible that countless tons of this rock were painstakingly hauled to the surface and used to construct entire villages and farmsteads on the hills above. These surface settlements, built from the guts of the underground city, would have blended seamlessly into the landscape. Over centuries, when these upper structures were eventually abandoned, they would have eroded back into the earth, their distinct stones becoming indistinguishable from the natural terrain. The rubble, in a sense, went home. Another possibility is one of strategic concealment. The builders, masters of secrecy, would have understood that a giant pile of fresh stone chips near a hidden entrance would be a glaring signpost to any searching enemy. They may have transported the material under cover of darkness, dispersing it into nearby riverbeds, deep ravines, and gorges where seasonal rains would gradually scatter and bury the evidence. This was not just disposal, it was active camouflage, an extension of the city's defensive philosophy to its very waste stream. The complete absence of the waste product forces us to see these builders not just as brilliant engineers, but as meticulous environmental managers. They left almost no trace of their grandest endeavor, ensuring that their sanctuary remained a secret long after the last stone was rolled into place. The constant temperature of the deep earth was a form of natural wealth, a resource as vital as water or stone. While the surface world endured the searing heat of summer and the biting cold of winter, life within the city remained in a state of perpetual, gentle spring. The temperature rarely strayed from a comfortable 55 degrees, a stability achieved not by burning fuel or complex machinery, but by harnessing the planet's own immense thermal mass. The volcanic rock acted as a perfect insulator, absorbing the minimal heat from bodies and fires and slowly releasing it, preventing any drastic swings. This was passive climate control on a grand scale, a system that required zero energy input yet operated flawlessly for centuries. The builders demonstrated a profound understanding of this geothermal principle, carefully calculating the ideal depth to excavate. Too shallow and the rooms would still feel the extremes of the surface. Too deep and the natural heat from the Earth's core would begin to warm the chambers beyond comfort. They found the perfect equilibrium, a sweet spot in the crust where the temperature was optimized for human habitation, for preserving food, and for sheltering livestock. This was not a happy accident. It was the result of meticulous observation and a deep, intuitive grasp of thermodynamics, the same principles that guide our modern heating and cooling systems. Their entire approach was a masterclass in sustainability. They did not fight their environment, they partnered with it, turning the very ground beneath their feet into a perfectly regulated home. In an age of energy consumption, this ancient model of efficiency offers a powerful lesson. It reminds us that the most elegant solutions are often those that work in harmony with the natural world, not against it. The same hands that first pried metal from the earth likely carved these cities from the stone. The leap from a narrow mine shaft to a sprawling subterranean metropolis seems vast, but the foundational knowledge is identical. Ancient miners were the original geotechnical engineers. For thousands of years, they had been learning to read the subtle signs in the rock, to follow a glimmering vein of copper or tin deep into the living mountain. This work taught them everything. They learned how to identify stable rock layers and avoid treacherous, crumbling strata. They mastered the art of shoring up tunnels with wooden supports to prevent collapse, a principle that evolved into the carved stone pillars of Derinkuyu. Most critically, they solved the problem of air. A deep mine shaft becomes a death trap without ventilation. Early miners discovered how to create a draft using dual shafts or cleverly placed fires, drawing fresh air down to the workers at the rock face and pulling the deadly, stagnant gases out. This hard-won, life-or-death knowledge of underground survival was a pre-existing technology, a ready-made toolkit. The vision to build a city did not emerge from a vacuum. It was the moment this specialized mining knowledge was scaled up and repurposed. The pursuit of material wealth transformed into the creation of human sanctuary. The narrow, single-purpose tunnel was widened into a bustling avenue. The cramped, temporary mining camp was reimagined as a permanent, multi-story neighborhood. This was innovation in its purest form, taking a practical, dangerous skill set and applying it to a grander, more ambitious vision for community survival. It shows us that the greatest technological leaps are often not the invention of something entirely new, but the brilliant, inspired adaptation of what we already know. These carvings were more than simple decoration. They were a language of identity spoken in the silent dark. On walls and above doorways, you find crosses, intricate spirals, and animal figures, each one a declaration of who these people were and what they believed. In a world without sunlight or the familiar horizon, these symbols acted as anchors to their cultural memory. They were a visual prayer, a way to keep their spiritual world alive and present when the physical world above had become inaccessible. The very act of carving a sacred symbol into the living rock was a profound act of consecration. It transformed a man-made cavern from a mere shelter into a blessed space, a true home for the spirit. This was how they turned a defensive stronghold into a sacred homeland, embedding their deepest beliefs into the very bones of the earth. The choice of symbols often reveals their connection to the wider world. A cross might link them to a broader religious community, while a unique local motif could signify a specific clan or family lineage, a way of saying we are still here, and this is who we are. This practice of marking their space points to a powerful human need, the need to imprint our identity upon our environment, especially when that environment is as alien and imposing as a world of endless stone. It proves that these cities were designed not just for the survival of the body, but for the preservation of a culture. The walls themselves became a library of belief, ensuring that even if their surface world was lost, their identity would endure deep within the earth. A city of 20,000 people cannot function without a swift and silent nervous system. The pressing question is how messages traveled across 18 stories of near-total darkness, from the deepest wine press to the highest lookout in an age before electronics. While messengers running through the main corridors were certainly part of the answer, the sheer scale and defensive needs of the city suggest something far more sophisticated was at work. Archaeologists point to the distinct possibility of engineered communication networks, systems designed to use the city's own architecture as a conduit for information. One compelling theory involves the ventilation shafts. These meticulously carved tubes, already serving as the city's lungs, could have been repurposed as a network of massive speaking tubes. A whisper spoken into one of these shafts on the top level could travel with startling clarity down to the communal kitchens several stories below, carried by the same natural airflow that brought them fresh breath. This would have been an elegant dual-purpose use of existing infrastructure. Another method may have relied on the city's bones, using the solid rock itself as a medium. A coded sequence of drumbeats or rhythmic strikes against a specific load-bearing pillar could have sent vibrations reverberating through the entire structure. A single, urgent pattern might signal an approaching threat, while a different, softer rhythm could call community leaders to a meeting hall. This was not just communication, it was a form of sonic cryptography, a language understood only by those who lived within the stone. The development of such a system was not a luxury, it was a matter of survival. In the event of a surprise attack or an internal emergency like a rockfall or fire, the ability to instantly alert the entire population and coordinate a response was the difference between order and chaos, between safety and catastrophe. This hints at a social structure with designated signalers, individuals trained to listen and relay, forming a human switchboard embedded in the earth. How many lives were saved by a single, well-timed message sent through the silent dark? Yet even the most perfectly engineered world can be left behind. The stone doors of Derinkuyu and places like it were sealed for the final time, not by an invading army, but by the slow, quiet turning of history. Why would a community abandon a sanctuary that had protected them for generations? The reasons are as layered as the cities themselves. For some, the political landscape above ground had finally stabilized. The constant threat of conflict that made the underground essential may have faded, replaced by an era of relative peace that made surface life less perilous. After centuries in the cool, constant dark, the simple appeal of sunlight and open air, of farming under the sky and building homes that did not require a lifetime of excavation, must have been a powerful lure. In other instances, a sudden, catastrophic event like a major earthquake could have damaged a critical part of the city's infrastructure. A collapsed ventilation shaft or a blocked main well could render the entire complex uninhabitable, forcing a rapid and permanent evacuation. This very act of abandonment, while the end of an era, became a gift to the future. Because these cities were often left in haste, they became remarkable time capsules. Archaeologists have found grinding stones still resting next to millstones, ceramic pots stored in kitchen niches, and personal items left behind as if the owners intended to return the next day. This frozen snapshot of daily life offers an unparalleled window into the material culture of a vanished time, preserving the mundane details that truly define a civilization. The silence that fell was not one of failure, but of a purpose fulfilled. The sanctuary had served its people until they no longer needed its protection, allowing them to emerge and build a new life in the world above. For centuries, the great underground cities slept beneath the feet of farmers and shepherds, their secrets guarded by the very soil they cultivated. The modern rediscovery of these places reads like a series of fortunate accidents, moments when chance peeled back a thin layer of earth to reveal a hidden world. In the 1960s, a man in Cappadocia was renovating his home when a single swing of his hammer broke through a wall, revealing not another room but a dark, gaping void. After clearing the rubble, he found himself at the top of a vast stone staircase descending into the absolute darkness of Derinkuyu. This was not an isolated incident. Across the region, similar stories unfolded, where a collapsing chicken coop or a sudden sinkhole would expose a carved stone doorway, a silent invitation from the past. These chance encounters remind us that our knowledge of the ancient world is often built not on grand expeditions, but on the simple, everyday actions of people living their lives above a forgotten kingdom. Today, the work of discovery has become far less dependent on luck. Archaeologists now peer into the earth without ever lifting a shovel, using technologies that feel like something from science fiction. Ground-penetrating radar sends pulses of energy deep into the soil, painting a picture of hidden chambers and tunnels by reading the echoes that bounce back from buried walls. Three-dimensional laser scanners stationed inside known chambers can capture every contour and cut in the rock with millimeter precision, creating a perfect digital twin of the entire complex. Meanwhile, drones equipped with specialized cameras fly over the landscape, their aerial views revealing subtle depressions and patterns in the vegetation that hint at vast, unseen structures below. This non-invasive approach is crucial, as it allows us to map these fragile time capsules without risking a single collapse or disturbing the delicate artifacts within. The data from these tools is revealing a startling new reality. The individual cities we have explored and mapped, as immense as they are, appear to be merely the largest nodes in a sprawling subterranean network. The scans are revealing long, narrow tunnels like underground highways, connecting these major population centers to smaller satellite settlements, isolated monasteries, and hidden granaries. This suggests a landscape not just dotted with independent refuges, but one that was comprehensively engineered for movement and communication beneath the surface. The true scale of this hidden world is only now coming into focus, and it forces a humbling question. If our most advanced technology is just beginning to grasp the full extent of this underground civilization, what other lost chapters of human ingenuity are still waiting silently in the dark just beneath our feet? The principles perfected in ancient darkness are now blueprints for our own subterranean ambitions. Modern engineers tasked with carving out subway systems, secure data bunkers, and deep command centers are looking back to these prehistoric marvels for guidance. They are not just studying the past, they are consulting with the original masters of underground living. The challenges faced by the builders of Derinkuyu are remarkably similar to those confronting a team designing a new metro line today. How to move thousands of people safely through a space with no natural light, how to ensure a constant supply of fresh air, and most critically, how to guarantee the structure will stand for a century or more. The ancient solution of passive ventilation, using carefully placed shafts to create a natural airflow, is a concept that directly influences the design of modern tunnel systems, reducing the enormous energy costs of mechanical ventilation. The intuitive understanding of load bearing, demonstrated by those unworked stone pillars and arched ceilings, informs the complex computer models used to plan the supports for massive underground caverns. This is not mere historical curiosity, it is a practical dialogue across thousands of years. The psychological insights are just as valuable. Designing a space where people can live and work for extended periods without natural light is a profound challenge. The ancient builders addressed this through community spaces, acoustic design, and spiritual symbolism, creating an environment that supported mental well-being. Modern architects for deep space habitats or long-term isolation facilities study these very principles to understand how to prevent sensory deprivation and maintain group cohesion in confined environments. The ancient world has become a long-term laboratory, offering proven, time-tested solutions to the very problems we are just now encountering on a massive scale. This continuity reveals a stunning truth that the fundamental laws of living within the Earth have not changed, only the tools we use to understand them. The allure of the unknown naturally weaves fantastical tales around these silent stone cities, whispers of giants whose strength alone could hew such chambers from the rock, or visitors from other worlds bestowing advanced technology, are compelling stories. Yet the truth, etched into the very walls by countless human hands, is in many ways more extraordinary. The evidence for who built these places and how is not hidden in ancient astronaut theories, but in the mundane, microscopic details left behind. Archaeologists meticulously study the countless tool marks scoring the corridors. These are not the burns of laser cutters or the impossible grooves of superhuman strength. They are the distinctive, repetitive scars of metal picks and stone hammers, each chip and groove telling a story of immense, sustained human effort. The pottery fragments found in kitchen areas and storage rooms are another quiet testament. Their style, decoration, and chemical composition link them directly to known cultures of the region, placing the inhabitants firmly within the timeline of human history. Even the very dust holds answers. Through advanced techniques like carbon dating, scientists can analyze minute fragments of charcoal from ancient torches or preserved seeds from long-forgotten meals, providing a precise calendar for when these spaces were actively lived in. This scientific evidence does not diminish the wonder of these cities, it transforms it. The narrative shifts from a mystery solved by otherworldly intervention to a profound testament to the resilience, cooperation, and sheer ingenuity of our own ancestors. The reality of a community working together for generations to carve a safe haven from solid rock, using only simple tools and hard-won knowledge, is a human story more powerful than any myth. This grounded understanding of their origins leads us to a final, overarching question about their ultimate purpose and the world they were built to endure. The human mind is not designed for a world of endless stone and absolute dark. The most profound challenge these builders faced was not structural or logistical, but psychological, the slow, creeping toll of sensory deprivation and confinement. How does a community maintain its sanity when the sun and stars are only a memory? Their solution was a masterclass in environmental psychology, woven directly into the city's architecture. They created large, resonant communal halls where the collective energy of conversation, storytelling, and shared meals could combat the isolating silence. They carved out dedicated spaces for spiritual practice, where ritual and prayer provided a framework of meaning and hope in the profound darkness. But their most brilliant innovation may have been their manipulation of light itself. Deep within the complex, they likely designed interior wells or light shafts that functioned as subterranean courtyards. On a bright day, a single, powerful beam of sunlight would plunge down these shafts, striking a polished stone or a pool of water below and scattering illumination throughout a central chamber. This was not just practical lighting, it was a profound psychological lifeline, a daily reconnection to the cosmic order above. This carefully engineered environment reveals a sophisticated understanding of the human spirit's needs. They knew that survival was more than just air, water, and food. It was the preservation of community, identity, and a sense of connection to something greater than their hidden world. Their coping strategies offer a timeless lesson in resilience, demonstrating that our deepest strength in times of hardship often flows from the rituals we share and the spaces we create together. This intricate social and psychological blueprint ensured the city was not just a shelter for the body, but a sanctuary for the mind. But the very air we breathe now threatens these silent stone chronicles. The preservation of these underground cities is a race against time, a delicate battle fought on multiple fronts. The soft volcanic tuff that made them so easy to carve is also their greatest vulnerability. The gentle scuff of 1,000 tourist shoes, the humidity from 10,000 breaths, and the subtle vibrations from nearby modern construction all conspire to slowly wear away the intricate carvings and weaken the ancient pillars. Water, once their lifeblood, has become a stealthy enemy. Shifting weather patterns and modern agriculture have altered the water table, leading to new seepage that can erode foundations and cause entire sections of wall to crumble into dust. The challenge is immense, a puzzle of protecting a world that was designed to be hidden, not visited. How do you save a city from the very people who have come to admire it? The answer lies in a careful, scientific balancing act. Conservation teams work like underground doctors, using advanced monitoring systems to track the slightest changes in temperature and humidity. They install nearly invisible supports to brace a fragile ceiling and apply gentle chemical consolidants that seep into the stone, binding it together from the inside without altering its appearance. To manage the impact of visitors, they create carefully planned routes that direct foot traffic away from the most sensitive areas and limit the number of people inside at any one time. This is not about locking these wonders away, but about ensuring they do not love them to death. Every effort is a promise to the future, a commitment that these unparalleled records of human ingenuity will remain standing for generations yet to come, so that the story they tell is never erased. The map of these underground cities is a drawing we are still tracing, with most of the lines left blank. For every grand hall and winding corridor we have carefully documented, there are countless more that remain a mystery, their entrances sealed by ancient rockfalls or by the deliberate hands of the builders themselves. These are the locked doors of a lost world, and they hold the most tantalizing questions. What lies in the darkness beyond these barriers? Could there be a central archive, a hall filled with clay tablets or engraved walls preserving a lost language or a forgotten history? Perhaps there are vast, empty granaries built for a population even larger than we have ever estimated, or a sacred spring, a subterranean lake considered the spiritual heart of the entire network. The most compelling possibility is that these blocked passages are not dead ends at all, but the forgotten arteries of a much larger body. They could be the connecting tunnels that link Derinkuyu directly to other known underground cities dozens of miles away, proving these were not isolated refuges but part of a single, integrated subterranean nation. Each sealed portal represents a potential paradigm shift, a chance to rewrite everything we think we know about the scope of this ancient endeavor. The tools of modern archaeology now allow us to peer beyond the stone without breaking a single ancient seal. Ground-penetrating radar and microgravimetric surveys can detect the faint echo of a hollow space deep within the rock, mapping the void from a distance. But the data can only tell us that an empty space exists, not what fills it. The ultimate answers, the artifacts and inscriptions and architectural secrets, remain locked away, protected by the very silence that has preserved them for millennia. These unexplored tunnels are the final frontier of this field, a silent invitation to the next generation of explorers. What we find behind the next sealed door could change our understanding of human history itself. Even a sealed city must breathe with the world above. The vast chambers of Derinkuyu were not a sealed tomb but a hidden heart, still connected to the surface by a vital, unseen pulse, the pulse of trade. For all their self-sufficiency, these subterranean societies could not produce every essential resource within their stone walls. They lacked the raw materials for tools, the specific ores needed to forge durable metal picks and chisels to maintain their own city. This simple, practical need reveals a profound truth. These people were not hermits. They were active, clever participants in a regional economy, hidden in plain sight. Imagine a network of trusted surface contacts, farmers and herders living ordinary lives, who acted as the city's lifeline. Under the cover of night, goods would flow. From the depths came highly specialized products, the very things a city of artisans with endless time on their hands could perfect. Their workshops, lit by flickering oil lamps, might have produced exceptionally fine metalwork, intricate textiles woven on compact looms, or large quantities of uniquely preserved foods, their recipes perfected in the constant cool of the deep storage chambers. These goods would be traded for the things the underground could not create: raw metal ingots, sturdy leather, specific grains, and perhaps even luxury items like spices or dyes that lifted the spirit in a world without sun. This was not a relationship of desperation, but one of calculated interdependence. The surface communities gained access to expertly crafted goods, while the hidden city secured the resources to endure indefinitely. This economic symbiosis proves these underground metropolises were not isolated enclaves of fear, but integrated, intelligent nodes in a much larger human network. They mastered the art of being present and absent all at once, a thriving economic engine humming quietly in the dark, its influence felt across the entire region. The next wave of discovery will not come from a shovel but from a sensor. We are entering an era where we can read the secrets of the Earth without ever breaking its surface. One of the most promising tools is a technique called Muon tomography. It sounds like science fiction, but it relies on a natural phenomenon. Cosmic rays from deep space constantly bombard our planet, producing a rain of subatomic particles called muons. These muons pass effortlessly through solid matter, but they are absorbed more by dense materials like solid rock than by empty spaces like hidden chambers. By placing sensitive muon detectors deep within a known underground city, scientists can essentially take an X-ray of the surrounding landscape. As millions of these ghostly particles stream through the Earth, the detectors build up a shadow image, revealing the precise shape and location of every tunnel, every room, and every sealed doorway for miles around. This could finally prove the existence of those legendary connecting passages between cities, mapping a subterranean world in its entirety. Beyond seeing the voids, we are learning to read the walls themselves. Advanced chemical analysis can now detect microscopic residues, the faintest molecular shadows of ancient life. A simple swipe of a laser across a stone surface can vaporize traces of organic material that have been bonded to the rock for thousands of years. The resulting spectral signature can tell us if a room was used for cooking olive oil, fermenting wine, housing livestock, or even mixing pigments for sacred art. This turns an empty chamber into a vivid snapshot of daily activity. We could identify a master stonemason's workshop by the unique metallic dust from his tools, or a healer's space by the residue of medicinal herbs. Each of these technologies acts as a key for a different locked door in the past. Muon tomography gives us the grand architectural blueprint, the city's skeleton. Chemical analysis reveals the flesh and blood of its daily life. As these tools become more sophisticated and accessible, we stand at the edge of a revolution in our understanding. The silent stones are beginning to speak, and they have stories we have never dared to imagine. When you piece together every facet of this underground world, a startling new portrait of our ancestors comes into focus. This was not a society of simple cave dwellers reacting to fear. They were urban planners who designed multi-level cities with specialized districts. They were environmental engineers who harnessed the Earth's own atmosphere and thermal mass to create a self-regulating habitat. They were master hydrologists who summoned and purified water from deep aquifers. They were strategic defense architects who engineered impenetrable security with massive, balanced stone doors. Each of these systems, from ventilation to food preservation, reveals a mind capable of thinking in terms of interconnected networks, of anticipating problems generations into the future. The sheer coordination of these disciplines points to a sophisticated level of social organization, a culture that could support and deploy specialized knowledge on a breathtaking scale. This synthesis of evidence compels us to abandon the old story of a slow, linear climb from primitivism to civilization. Instead, we see a different kind of peak, one built not on metal or industry, but on an intimate, profound wisdom of the living earth. Their technology was not in the tools they held, but in the knowledge they carried, a deep, empirical understanding of geology, physics, and human need that allowed them to reshape the planet from the inside out. What does this mean for our traditional timeline of human progress? It suggests that profound engineering capability is not the exclusive domain of the modern world or even of classical antiquity. Great leaps of ingenuity can emerge from any age, born from necessity and a deep, observant partnership with the natural world. The legacy of these builders is a humbling reminder that true innovation has many faces, and some of the most brilliant are still waiting in the dark, challenging everything we thought we knew. These vast underground cities scattered across our planet are far more than historical curiosities. They are enduring monuments to prehistoric engineering mastery, a testament to a deep and intuitive understanding of the world that we are only now fully learning to appreciate. Our ancestors did not merely survive, they engineered sustainable and secure habitats against all odds, demonstrating a profound partnership with the Earth itself. Their legacy, carved in silent stone, teaches us to look at history with fresh eyes, to see the past not as a simple timeline, but as a tapestry rich with forgotten genius. If this journey into the depths of history has captivated you, we invite you to subscribe for more explorations into the world's greatest mysteries. We would love to hear your thoughts on these ancient engineers in the comments below.